The field meal that redefined how we prepare for survival. When you think of World War II logistics, you probably picture tanks, planes and ships. But one of the war's most influential innovations could fit in a soldier's backpack. In 1943, a simple brown box called the K ration quietly reshaped how humans think about endurance, nutrition and preparedness. Designed for mobility and survival, it was more than just a meal. It was a self-contained system that kept soldiers alive under isolation, starvation and stress. This little pack became a blueprint for every modern emergency kit, from military field rations to the 72-hour bug-out bags we use today. And while it's easy to dismiss it as just another wartime ration, the K ration represented a complete shift in mindset. It turned the act of survival into something measurable, portable, and efficient. For those of us who study the practical lessons of history, it remains one of the most quietly powerful designs ever made. The K ration was created to solve a crisis in field endurance. By 1942, the United States Army was facing a serious problem. Paratroopers and light infantry were being deployed deep behind enemy lines with no guarantee of supply. They needed something small enough to carry on their person, but dense enough to fuel days of combat and movement. Dr. Ansel Keys, a University of Minnesota physiologist, was tasked with solving this puzzle. He designed a compact, high-calorie food system that could survive any climate, resist spoilage, and keep a soldier functioning in isolation. The first field test was simple, 3 boxes per day. Breakfast, dinner and supper. Each one contained a combination of canned meat, biscuits, a concentrated dessert, powdered coffee, sugar tablets, and small comforts like gum or cigarettes. It wasn't meant to be gourmet. It was engineered to provide 2,800 calories per day in a total weight of less than 2 pounds. That precision, the balancing of calorie density, weight and morale, became the foundation for every future emergency kit design. It wasn't about abundance, it was about balance. Today's modern bug-out bags still rely on that principle, the perfect intersection between energy, portability and psychological endurance. The structure of the K ration taught us how to build for function, not luxury. Every part of the K ration had a defined purpose. The inner wax paper kept moisture out, while the outer cardboard acted as both protection and fuel for fire starting. The meals were portioned to prevent overeating in scarcity. Even the order of opening, breakfast first, then dinner, then supper, created a rhythm of routine that stabilized the mind under stress. Modern preppers often overlook this psychological design. The K ration wasn't just food, it was discipline. Soldiers could track their days by meal order, which in turn reduced the anxiety of uncertainty. The takeaway for anyone building their own emergency kit today is simple. Structure matters. Don't just pack food randomly, organize it by purpose and time frame. Separate your daily rations into individual packs. Label them. Include both energy-dense and morale-lifting items, the way the K ration included a small sweet or caffeine boost to keep soldiers alert and motivated. If you were to build a modern equivalent at home, you could, well, follow the same logic using shelf-stable items. Create 3 compact pouches per day with jerky or canned meat for protein, crackers or oats for carbohydrates, and, a comfort item, instant coffee, chocolate or gum to help morale. This modular system, tested in war, ensures predictability even under chaos. The K ration demonstrated that morale is part of survival. Military records show that soldiers sometimes complained about the K ration's repetitive taste, but they also admitted that small luxuries like chewing gum, powdered lemonade, or a single chocolate bar were what kept them going. Those tiny additions weren't random. They were psychological armor. The K ration proved that survival isn't just physical endurance, it's emotional continuity. Today, when disaster agencies and wilderness experts recommend adding comfort items to a 72-hour kit, that advice traces directly back to Ansel Keys's design. The lesson remains vital. Your body can adapt to hunger, but your mind can't adapt to hopelessness. When building your personal survival pack, always include something familiar that anchors your morale. A flavor, a smell, a small piece of routine. It's not indulgence, it's what keeps you focused when everything else falls apart. The K ration's modular efficiency became, well, the core of modern bug-out design. After the war, veterans who'd lived on K rations took that mindset home with them. Early survivalists and mountaineers began replicating the format, lightweight, sealed, high-calorie, portioned. From there, the idea evolved into the so-called survival ration tins of the 1950s and the Cold War-era civil defense kits. Even today, FEMA's recommended 72-hour supply, NASA's astronaut rations and NATO's field packs all follow pretty much the same framework the K ration established: caloric density, low spoilage, psychological balance and packaging integrity. The concept of modular packing, grouping essentials by day or function, also became standard practice in bug-out and emergency kits worldwide. You can see this legacy in modern prepper habits. The average go bag now contains compact meals like MREs or energy bars, hydration solutions, a heat source and morale boosters, all tightly packed and organized. None of that would exist without the 1943 K ration's engineering logic. It proved that survival equipment didn't need to be complex. It needed to be complete. You know, the legacy of the K ration is not nostalgia. It's a living system. The K ration was eventually phased out by the Army after the war due to calorie shortages for longer missions, but its design principles were never abandoned. Instead, they evolved. The meal, ready to eat, or MRE, that soldiers use today is a direct descendant, updated with better packaging and more balanced nutrition. And actually, the same logic also influenced the civilian world, from hiking meal packs to disaster relief rations. What made the K ration revolutionary wasn't its content, it was the mindset it created. It turned preparedness into something scientific. It proved that you can, actually quantify survival and design for it. Every modern emergency kit, from the simplest first aid pouch to a comprehensive bug-out bag, owes something to that wartime box. And this is where the K ration still speaks directly to us today. If you're serious about readiness, study it not as a relic, but as a manual. Focus on weight efficiency. Plan for psychological balance. Design your system to survive abuse, just like those boxes that crossed oceans and jungles without falling apart. The K-ration's greatest gift is the discipline of preparedness. At its core, the K-ration reminds us that survival isn't about panic, it's about planning. It's about knowing your needs, measuring your limits, and designing around them with precision. The men who lived off those small boxes weren't superhuman. They were organized, disciplined, and resourceful. That's the same mindset we should carry forward today. Whether you're building a backyard emergency pack or refining a professional bug-out setup, the principles remain unchanged since 1943. Efficiency, durability, balance, and calm under stress. If you value these kinds of field-tested lessons, real history with practical relevance, subscribe to Backyard Wisdom. Share this episode with someone who believes preparation is more than just gear. Because what the K-ration taught us is timeless. Survival isn't a matter of luck. It's a matter of design, and design, when done right, can keep a person alive against the odds.